My name is Katie Swanson. I am a product designer with SharePoint. I actually like to tell people a little bit of a flip on that. I use the product to design what SharePoint can do and be. I've been doing this for the past year. My first initial project was actually to build out all the demos for Elastic Night. So I kind of jumped into the fire to figure out the product as well as come up with these great ideas that were all out of the box. Sometimes they often do demo things that are coming, so I got to work with those as well and provide feedback. So I'm also a user. But some of the things I'm going to share today are not going to necessarily going to be based around the demos because everybody sees those, and those are usually what goes into the lookbook. You're seeing a lot of the sites that are already put out there. You've seen them. You'll see them all over in marketing. I'm actually going to demo something that's outside of that. I was going to say outside of the box, but it will be. So a little bit of just a background on how I approach this. This is very going to be design heavy, but it also ties into every kind of a project management as well. And the way that I think about this, there's a lot of planning that goes involved into a site. Outside of the demo environment where I actually have a script and I'm working with somebody side by side, there's other alternatives that I have to think about when it comes to site creation. I generally don't think about them as a comm site or a team site. I actually think about the solution that they're trying to solve. So what is that actual purpose of it? Who needs to have the access? What are the perms going to be like? And then even, I can design something, but who's going to maintain it? Is this going to be something that they can easily jump into and I can be hands off the wheel? Then I also start thinking about content. Content's probably one of the hardest parts of the journey. In a perfect world, I would love to be handed something at the get-go, but we know we don't live in a perfect world. So I, on the other side, am starting to think about what's the brand going to be? What kind of photography? Do we have org assets set up? Can I actually put those in ahead of time? And then also, should we incorporate other kind of content? Should we have some stream videos? Should we have some Twitter feeds? Is there going to be Yammer? Should we have some kind of listing involved? Is there going to be any kind of customization to that? Even Planner's a good one. And then, of course, site navigation. That's always important because the site navigation, if your users can't get around your site, then I feel like it's almost a UX fail. We want to be able to provide the best experience top down. So, and then the designing aspect, I always think about above the fold. And when I say above the fold, I'm not literally, we'll get into this, what I think about above the fold, but what are those key elements that need to be right at the top? And then also thinking about our web parts, they have so many different layout options, and how can I incorporate those to make it a little bit more dynamic? Also, Whitespace, huge part of this, a very big friend of mine. I love the spacer. I like things that can breathe. I don't think you should overdo it with your content. Cognitive load needs to be taken into account. My theming and color usage throughout, now that we've actually brought in background colors, section backgrounds, even in the header. How can I use that to draw attention, which rolls into calls to action? Is there a call to action on the page? Do I need to incorporate that somewhere, and how can I design that so it's very intriguing? And then quite often when I'm doing a design, I will come up with, on the templates, there's a lot of news articles that come prepackaged, and I will utilize page templates to be able to produce those well. Sometimes there's going to be a fully baked out news article, but most of them, as you know, in our demo environment are a little bit of what we'll say filler. So page templates become my best friend on that. So above the fold, I just want you guys to take a minute and know it's a myth. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I call it scrolling telling, because scrolling is a continuation and clicking is a decision. You want your content to be engaging and informative, and people aren't coming just for the top of your screen. There's always great content even below that. And there's ways that we can do that. Best practices, creating focal points, visual cues, so people know to actually scroll. And you really want to, when it comes to spacing, like I said with Whitespace, break up your content. And then, of course, quality engaging content is top priority so that people come back and read it. And I love that our navigation is actually sticky, so it does accommodate that scrolling. And now that we've brought anchor links in, you can actually utilize that in different ways to go to sections within your page. So demo. So I'm going to do a demo. Like I said, I'm going to actually do something. I'm going to put you guys into, I got a request to build a event site. Contoso Marketing is getting ready to put out a Fly Safe conference. It's not until next July, but I'm going to quickly build this out and show you guys what I mean by all of these kind of visual cues. So here's a perfect world. I actually got a document sent to me of what they want on the page. Before I actually dive into this, I probably had a one-on-one quick chat with the person I'm actually building this with. And then they also, in the contents document, I actually have all the imagery that I've thought about. I'm kind of jumping ahead for you guys, but this is, I pulled together the imagery, I've got my copy doc, I've kind of thought through some things, and then I'm going to actually go build it. And for the sake of timing here, I did some pre-planning, but I am going to go into edit mode, so you're going to see all my background on what we're actually doing here. So Fly Safe, top, they gave me a nice image that I worked with them to create a banner. So let me go ahead and get into my site. Come on. And because I was really smart, I actually put in my header. New basis, face out of the way real quick. And open that guy. Boom, nice. I don't, as a SharePoint, we don't highly suggest using text, but if you do, I would test it across all devices to make sure that you have legibility. This right here, it's really large, so I know that it scales to mobile. Smaller text, of course, I don't recommend it, and very limited text is actually more ideal. So we have the date. I'm going to go ahead and come into my countdown timer and actually set that for the correct date and not tomorrow. July, oh, it's a Sunday. Well, that's okay. And I'm also going to add in a background image. I have a picture from the conference itself last year. And I'm seeing a little bit of a contrast issue, so I'm going to go ahead and bump up my opacity, make sure that's legible. Great, nice call to action is to get your tickets. Right now, because this is a template, I have all of the links going to just a refresh. Quite often you'll see that when they come through. I don't send you outside so that you can update it on your own. This section is going to be more of an information section, but I wanted to use it for a visual cue to go ahead and scroll down the page. So I'm going to pull in a nice strong section background. I also, as you'll see, I added a spacer here to give it a little bit more breathing room. Big fan of the spacer. And then we need some text to come in here. Come on over here. Great, and because this is just normal and we have our slotting, it's going to come in white and I have a nice contrast to it. Really kind of pulls the page down. Oh, and I noted here that this next session is actually going to be, next section is going to have all the sessions, which are, I'm going to utilize the events. And look at that, they actually preloaded the events on the page for me. All I have to do is do that because it's coming from this site. Of course, with events, you know, you can pull them from other locations, but for templates, I always keep everything internal. Oh, and this looks like it's going to be, oh, I have two things that I need to do here. I need to have a link off to the keynote information as well as the agenda. So I'm going to utilize a hero. I only have two. Again, I'm going to use an internal refresh. Go ahead and set that up on this side as well. All right, and because I put a strong section background here, you can do that on your heroes and actually be kind of creative in that. And what I mean is on this side, I'm going to actually add an image here. There's a nice theme that they have about a typographic rather. I'm saying that wrong. Where are you?
I have to say that's story of my life. I'm always on somebody's way.
Your little face is like, I keep moving you around. I'm going to put this typographic, and which is white. Once it comes in, you can see how it actually plays with the section background, which is great. So if I do change the theming, it actually will work any which way because it's on top of it and it's a ping. And this is the agenda. Let's schedule. Send them off somewhere. I could put my call to action if I want. I'm just going to leave it blank because it's just going to add a link at the top. Can link that out to another page. Here I have a keynote. And again, a nice custom image background. Oh, how about we spell it correctly? Keynote. Keynote. And I have this really basic scrubbed image, so it could be really anything being presented at this point. I can go back in and update that once I have the final details, little Photoshop magic. And then down here, I'm going to add in the ticket pricing or details. I'm using just emojis here to get these items to come in. All of our RTE will accept these. Now, do keep in mind, they're going to look different across browsers. Are a little bit browser dependent, so I do like to look at that. I'm on a Mac, so you're seeing what I see. And because we have this amazing duplication, I can actually do that and quickly come in and update these. This is going to come on. If I did not come over, so that's easy. And on this, you get everything. So I could just quickly update that. And the get tickets are all going to be going to the same place, so I can just quickly duplicate that and put it all the way across. Super easy. And that's it. So let's see what this looks like. And here, as you can see, this is just your normal, probably most browser type here, the size of it. You'll see that things are peaking. So this is where I tell scrollytelling. It actually makes me feel like I should go ahead and dive down and scroll further to get more information. And the nice visual at the top kind of ties things in with our hero image. Also, nice call to action, counting down the days. Again, nice, pulls my eye in with this nice primary color of our sessions, schedule, and ticket pricing so people can go out. You can also include that in your navigation, brings you to the same pages, and you can also include it in your footer if you'd like. I do generally on, you can leave the comments on or off. You can do a contact page if you like, and that's really it for the demo. As I think Vase has been alluding to, we do have some really great new lookbook templates coming. I'm going to call them solutions, different kinds of things that you could kind of bring in. They're not always going to be about the demos, or also we're thinking about these in different higher levels, so we can give you guys more options for customers and tenants across the site. Yes, sites across your tenant rather. And always looking for suggestions. So if you think of something that comes across when you're working on things that would be helpful as a starter design, definitely reach out to me on Twitter and let me know, because I'm always looking for great new ideas. We are always interested to see how people use these, so feedback is great as well. And that's it for me.
Cool. Don't don't stop sharing yet. There's a few questions. Just a comment on the lookbook sites. Like Katie said, we're working on the V2 templates, and those are going to be available then in the upcoming provisioning service. So we're kind of evolving the lookbook site and the provisioning service to an interesting direction. We're not going to disclose everything right now, but you'll see more stuff coming up before Ignite or in Ignite. Hopefully, that's currently our deadline. Now, to be fair, for some of these new designs, if the people who attended this call were part of the monthly community call, which was a week ago, where we had John Sanders doing live demos of the out-of-the-box web parts. He was actually using a lot of the new site and site designs with a white site for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really cool stuff coming up. And basic idea is that people can easily then provision example content to their tenants or demo tenants using those templates when we get stuff moving. Now, there was a few questions which we wanted to ask. There was just a note on this one. Is there recommended sizes for header images and all of that? Thank you, Bo Cameron, on sharing a link to the support articles. There is a clear articles on the recommended sizes and all of that on the width of the image and all of that. Mm-hmm. There was a question, is that called parallax scrolling? What the header image is doing when it's scrolling down? Is that or because it's doing? Yeah,
so our imagery across the site, anytime you put it in, will take on a parallax effect to it. Yep. You'll also see that in our hero imagery as well.
Cool. And then there was a kind of an interesting question. I know that this is kind of a difficult question as well, but any tips on converting HTML mockups to modern SharePoint pages? Because this is the classic challenge with SharePoint, especially in classic SharePoint, in classic experiences. It was like customer came with a fancy looking designs and said, I want to make SharePoint look like this. And then said, well, oh, okay. But any tips on your side of the house?
Yeah, I think I work with internal and external teams that quite often come with me and say, this is what we have right now. How can we implement this in modern? And most of the stuff they have, if there might be a somewhat of a one-to-one using, and I should say, I always look at the out-of-the-box solutions first. If there's something that they definitely need that's going to have to be custom, I can walk through that with them as well. And point them to all your awesome documentation. But there, as of right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a way to say, here's an HTML file and bring it into modern. I just look at it from what are the web parts that we support and we have today that actually can create the same, I don't want to say look and feel, but provide the same solutions.
Yeah.
And kind of work through that. People are very happy about that. But again, like I said, if there's something very custom, there are ways to work around that as well, right? Because we have custom coding for that.
Absolutely. There's also a really good suggestion from Gary on the chat window, which is why mock when you can actually build a quick working demo for real. Which is absolutely correct. So that's definitely a super powerful way of getting things kind of shown what's possible. And please do remember, we have already right now provisioning.sharepointdmpp.com service. You can get exactly the same designs which we used a year ago in Ignite provisioned to any tenant in the world. And that's actually super powerful because now you have a starting point and then you can start modifying the content. There's example content, example images and all of that. So a really powerful way of approaching designing those things. And there's a good question from Aravind. Can we convert the sample site to a template and apply that to another site? So natively out of the box in SharePoint, unfortunately, that's not possible, but that's where the BMP tenant templating comes along. So you can technically extract and apply that template to any site in the world, and you would get the same end result. There are certain things which you need to consider, and you can manipulate the template if needed as part of the extraction and manipulate and then apply. But technically, when you extract using the BMP templating, it actually takes images and example content, the web parts, and whatever the web part content is being used on those as well, and then extracts that to a single file, and then you're able to apply that to any tenant or other site collections as well. And that's really the power of community, because the BMP tenant templates has been built by more than 100 people of the community within the past years. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, can you also utilize site design for that as well?
Well, site designs are theoretically you can extract site using site design, except there's no support for modern pages.
Got you. Okay.
And for many other various settings which are not included in site design. So I would say, how would I estimate this? Site designs is right now in 15 to 20% level comparing to the open source templating.
Okay.
But it's evolving. It's all the time heading forward. Absolutely. But I think that's it for now on the questions. And let's actually continue watching the questions. There might be time for Q&A in the end, but we need to give also Ramin enough time.
You guys can always reach out to me on Twitter.
Yeah, and Katie is super active on Twitter, and she's funny, like Chris mentioned on the chat already. So thank you for your morning messages.